There's a version of the Supreme Court that operates almost entirely in secret. No arguments, no opinions, no explanation, just a ruling that reshapes national policy. And it's completely legal. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on shadow dockets. They're becoming more and more commonplace. They're very concerning, and we need to be paying attention to this. So, the normal version of the Supreme Court we're used to sees roughly 70 cases a year, written briefs, oral arguments, long signed opinions explaining every word of the reasoning. That's how Brown versus Board of Education happened. That's how Roe v. Wade happened. That's the merits docket. It's public, deliberate, and slow by design. The shadow docket is the other Supreme Court. Minimal briefing, short rulings that rarely explain why, often resolved within a week of filing. This week, the New York Times just obtained 16 pages of internal memos from 2016, a rare look at how justices actually talk to each other behind closed doors, and what those memos reveal is actually stunning. The moment many legal scholars now call the birth of the modern shadow docket, the 2016 stay of Obama's Clean Power Plan, a 5-4 partisan vote, no merits arguments, no full briefing, just blocked, before the policy ever got a real hearing. Justice Alito argued in those memos that failing to act would make a meaningful judicial reveal a nullity. That ruling effectively killed the Clean Power Plan, and it set the template for everything that followed. So how is this even legal? Well, under a specific federal statute, 28 U.S.C. section 2101F, Congress authorized individual justices to issue stays on their own. The court's own internal rules direct emergency applications to a single circuit justice, who can act alone or refer it to the full court. To get one of those orders, you theoretically have to show you have a fair shot at winning, that you'll suffer irreparable harm without it, and that the lower court was probably wrong. In theory, these are just temporary, just preserving the status quo while the real case proceeds. Here's the problem. Temporary orders blocking federal policy can functionally become permanent when underlying litigation drags on for years. And with no written opinion, there's nothing for the public, lower courts, or Congress to meaningfully challenge. Nothing to read, nothing to cite, nothing to argue against. Justice Amy Coney Barrett once told critics, just read the opinions. Steve Vladeck, a University of Texas law professor whose book on the shadow docket became one of the most important legal texts of the last decade, pointed out the obvious response: there are no opinions to read, Miss Amy. And then came Trump's second term. The numbers here are ridiculous. Between January 20th and November 6, 2025 alone, that's less than 10 months, the Trump administration filed 30 emergency relief applications to the Supreme Court. Biden's entire 4 years, 19. Bush and Obama combined across 16 years, 8. Of those 30 Trump-era applications, 24 were granted. A New York Times survey of 65 sitting federal judges found 47 of them disagreed the court had used the shadow docket appropriately under Trump's second term. Only 12 said it had. If you want to understand what that looks like in practice, look at the timeline. Travel ban, shadow docket. Remain in Mexico, shadow docket. Executions allowed to proceed over dissent, shadow docket. COVID evictions moratorium blocked, shadow docket. Vaccine mandates blocked, shadow docket. Emergency orders blocking federal judges from reviewing immigration detentions and deportations, often granted within hours with no written explanation, all shadow dockets. Lower courts are left without guidance, Congress has nothing to respond to, and the public, you, has no opinion to read. You don't have to think the shadow docket is inherently illegitimate to be troubled by this. Even legal conservatives who support the court's outcomes have raised questions about the process. The concern crosses ideological lines because the concern is structural. Today it benefits one side, tomorrow it could benefit the other. That's it for today. Hope you learned a little bit about shadow dockets. Let's pay attention to this. This is scary. This should not be a thing. So anyways, thank you for watching.